Hi, my name is Chad Floyd. I'm a partner at Centerbrook Architects, and we are working in collaboration with CJMW Architecture and Samet Corporation in a design-build enterprise to bring forward a new middle school for Greensboro Day School. It's been a fascinating project, and of course, I'm just the tip of the iceberg of many design professionals, engineers, and others working on this exciting project. We've been working with the Middle School Design Committee for some time now, and it has been a wonderful process. We've developed many workshops and working with that committee to bring forward lots of information, and that information has informed our thinking about the campus and about the building. And it has been very enriching for us. Through that process, we've developed some objectives, first for the campus. And that, I'd like to just quickly go through this list with you. We need to relieve congestion along the Lawndale entry side, and that was very, very clear. The new building that we develop needs to be made very welcoming. The student drop-off area needs to be enhanced. It's quite, as I said earlier, congested now. We've got to increase the parking space count, improve the legibility of the campus, and envision future needs because the school is going to continue to need to have some expansion. So as we thought about how to do all of that, we looked at of course, at the campus plan and developed a concept that was, I think, effective. And that concept is to rethink the front of the campus, to move the front from Lawndale back to the Lake Branch side where there's lots of space, and to develop the new building where the old tennis courts are. And you can see here that we've already, in this slide, this is taken from Google Earth, you can see this shows the development already, the first stage of that with the new tennis courts. And what will now happen is that the old tennis courts will go away, the building will be built where those old tennis courts are, and then you'll enter through the gate that has now been developed, facing the new building, thus leveraging the new building as a strong first statement of identity for the campus, and then continue on through park, drop off, and exit back onto Lake Branch Road. So that is the plan that we have, and it means that then you will be able to remove the existing middle school building, creating a space at the center of the campus. And that space we envision as a wonderful new quadrangle. And in association with that, we'd have some other important green spaces associated with the new building. The first would be an environmental garden to the south of the new building, and then a garden at the center of the footprint of the new building, and of course adding lovely trees through all of that, really creating an introduction of nature into the new building, around the new building, and into the center of the campus. Then that will set us up in the future for new additions to the campus that we already think will be necessary at some point in the future, and those additions can be built in such a way as to reinforce the identity and the character and shape of that quadrangle at the center of the campus, which really will become the ceremonial heart for the school. It could be the place where graduations occur and other events, and so we think this is a great new direction for the campus. Then we developed some objectives for the middle school building. The first is that it's going to be 27,000 square feet, which is over half an acre in size in terms of its spaces. So that's a significant building. It should be special and memorable, and it should be state-of-the-art with its classroom technology. The design should be very sustainable. It should be orienting and friendly for its occupants. And let's not forget, those occupants are little people. They're middle schoolers. The building ought to be scaled to them and really make them feel comfortable. We want the students to be connected to the landscape via this building, and we want the building to provide excellent security in the event of an emergency. And then finally, the construction value of this building has to be excellent, and those operating costs moving forward need to be low. So how would we then design the building based on those objectives? The first is that we discovered that the space where those tennis courts exist now is ideal for the 27,000 square foot footprint as a single-story building, and this is great. This reduces the cost of construction and allows all the classrooms to be at grade where they can have a relationship with the landscape. Then we thought, well, that is a pretty good sized footprint. Wouldn't it be nice if it could have a sloped roof instead of just a flat roof? And we noticed that the buildings on that side of the campus where the new building will be all have sloped roofs. So this would fit right in as a sloped roof building. And what that means for the interior is that in the classroom, the students could have not just a sort of boring flat ceiling, but an interesting sloped ceiling that soars, and we think that would be very attractive. Every single classroom, therefore, can have a sloped ceiling. Another feature we found was that you could enter the building and then come into the possibility of a garden at the center, an outdoor garden, and then that could connect to the south towards an environmental garden that the science department could use for students' pedagogy and science. That leads us to another interesting concept, which is the building is set really on the compass grid of north and south. So to the south, that environmental garden I just mentioned would be placed, and from the south you would be able to have sunlight illuminating all day long a photovoltaic array on the south sloping roof. Then the central garden could be a shady space that provides outlook to a sort of microcosm of nature at the center of the building. And that could be used for pedagogy because the solstice, winter, spring solstice could be identified there, and the science department could use that garden and the fact that the building is directly on true north for its pedagogy. So this is how we have then developed that concept into a marvelous building that really creates a very, I think, imageable, welcoming structure for students to come to every day to learn. The building is arrayed, as I said, around a central garden. It addresses the entry drive. As you wrap around the building, you can see where the garden, the environmental garden is. We're coming, and you can see the photovoltaic arrays, and then coming back to the front, you can see how the building presents itself in a special way to the school. What we're really doing with the front is we are slicing, it's like you created a kind of cross-section slice right at the front through the roof to make a very memorable silhouette. And so that is what people will see as they enter the campus, and we think it will really establish that strong identity. What is this going to be like in terms of materials? Well, the roof is very, very important. It's a one-story building with a big roof. We'd like to see a standing seam roof on this building. This is a building that I designed a few years ago at the Brooks School up here in Massachusetts. A standing seam roof, very, very high quality, strong image. And notice that we have a clapboard building here. That's what we recommend for the material on the building at Greensboro Day School. Although it's not wood clapboard, it would be a cementitious material that would be very long lasting, not subject to rot, and the paint would actually stick to it for a long time. And of course you do have some, along with your brick buildings, you have quite a bit of wood established on many of the facades of those buildings, so this would be in keeping with that and would take it really to a new level. One that is, I think, very appropriate and appropriately scaled for the middle school students of this building, very friendly presentation, I think, for them. Here, as you pull back and look at that facade as you enter the campus, this is more what you would see, and it really creates that kind of welcoming presentation that I was talking about, just as the building at Brooks School does, because the entry drive comes right past that. It's a very memorable presentation of a building with little landmark elements like cupolas and such on it, just as we would have here at Greensboro. Looking at the interior of this building is very important now to just think about how the spaces inside would be arrayed. In color, we show the classrooms. They would be around the outer edge of the building. Administration would be up at the front entrance. And then commons rooms would be set on the interior wall looking directly out at the garden, and then other subordinate spaces, making up the footprint of the entire building. Let's look a little more closely at some of these elements. The entry lobby. Here's a cross-section showing what that entry lobby would look like, and here's a sketch giving you a sense of how that space would present itself as you come into the building. Some lounge areas as you come into the offices, and also a conference room. Another important area would be the commons rooms I mentioned earlier. The commons rooms are shared by two classes, two grades, 5th and 6th on one side, 7th and 8th on another. The common room would be a place where the ceiling stretches up and soars, and we would let the structure, the wood trusses, be exposed here for a very interesting effect. And take a look at that wall of windows down there. That would be a nano wall where we hope such that it could be opened and give a direct outlet to the inner garden. Let's take a closer look at that because it's interesting. Here's another view. There's the nano wall, and here we have it open, so there's an absolutely just completely open effect out to the outer loggia and garden. That would affect, we've used in a number of schools. This is a school in Cambridge, Massachusetts, with a nano wall set of doors that open directly out into a courtyard, and it's really quite a wonderful thing. Looking at some other elements, a classroom here. The main thing with the classroom is that it has that sloped ceiling, and you can see here how that would work, and we would introduce all the latest technology. There would be a wall. Instead of just having a blackboard or a whiteboard, we'd use the whole wall for that purpose using a product that is really very effective for that, and a short throw projector that would give us the opportunity to see an image projected right on that wall. Then, just to give you an idea of the interior of these classrooms, the furnishings and such, these can be classrooms that have the opportunity to rearrange furniture in lots of different patterns. Here's a middle school classroom we recently did. Another type of classroom that would be good to look at would be the science classroom, and we have 3 of those. Here is an 8th grade science classroom, and again it has the sloped ceiling, which I think gives it such a nice sense of airiness, and you can see a dormer at the end that would bring light through the roof down into the space. And you can see again, with this classroom, just as with the regular classroom, we would have a long wall that would allow the teacher to use the entire wall for writing information, and then we have that short throw projector that would allow for that to occur without throwing shadows of the teacher on the screen. And then notice that the classroom is divided into 2 areas. There is a lab area and then a separate teaching area. This is something we introduced at the Phillips Exeter Academy science building a number of years ago, and it's been very effective. It's really served as a model for middle and high school pedagogy since it was built. And another point I would like to make, and a very important point for this building, is that the very configuration of the building lends itself to excellent security. There are various doors around the building. You can see them marked in red here. Once the students have arrived, those doors are locked, and then that building is really in a very secure situation, really creating a secure perimeter all the way around the building. And even with that, there is an open garden, as I said earlier, at the center, which is completely permeable. The students can have access to that. But if there is an emergency of any kind, every classroom has an escape window that can be opened, and students can come directly outside, or of course they can come directly out of the doors. So this building has both excellent perimeter security and an excellent means of egress from every classroom. We think that's an increasingly important consideration. This is a view that I think is intriguing because it's a cross-section, east-west cross-section across the building that gives you a sense of the size of the building, the relationship of the commons rooms, left and right, to the inner garden. And you can see that porch loggia wrapping around the inner garden. And it just shows the importance of the garden really informing all of the corridors of the building, wrapping around all wings. Everybody gets to look as they walk around. They all get to look out into this garden, and especially the entry lobby, which you see here. So as we pull back, we see the importance of that garden and how the building wraps around it. And just some sketches here will give you a sense of the sense of marvelous containment of that microcosm of nature at the center of the building. Here's another view looking back towards the south and towards the exterior garden, and then here is a view back towards the north, looking towards the lobby, and that great dormer over the lobby, and a space that can be used for many functions, not only the day-to-day activities of the students, but marvelous social events and other gatherings. So I would conclude then by coming back and looking again at the building view that you saw earlier that shows the arrangement of spaces around the garden, the relationship back to the entry drive, and just to say in conclusion how much we've enjoyed developing this concept with the committee and with our colleagues in North Carolina. And we really look forward to the continuing development of this building as we move now into the next 2 stages of design, and very shortly, we hope, into construction of what will be a marvelous new building for Greensboro Day School. Thank you.